Gabby, I was telling Candace, so I was trying to figure out, like, what to post on the Facebook page, because I've been, like, struggling to be like, I don't know what to post. So I was like, whatever, I'll just post about Girl Walks Home Alone at Night yesterday. And I did, and then Pat messaged me and was like, hey, I'm not that guy, the typo guy, but I think you meant to say, do yourself a favor. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I looked at the post to see him, like, maybe I misspelled favor. And I meant to say, do yourself a favor and watch this film. And I said, do yourself and watch this film.
Self-care. Brought to you by Not Your Final Girl. Go masturbate and watch a movie.
If it's not a good look, why do I wear it so well? Pardon me, I mistook your pretty face for someone else, but you just have to do, because you see it's getting late. It's a blank point of view that keeps the guilt from off my plate.
Why are bunnies sexy? Is it because they fuck so much? Like, I don't understand it.
I think a woman as a bunny is sexy because rabbits are stupid and they fuck a lot.
I never thought, I guess, yeah, I never really put much thought into it.
I swear there's probably some, like, actual articulation of that written by Hugh Hefner somewhere.
Ugh, yeah, probably.
He has something, like, I read it in a women's studies class once, that he had some, like, explanation of the ethos of the Playmate. Sex doesn't have to be a complicated woman in her fancy lingerie. It can just be a woman who is naked and dumb. It's like,
awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, what's up? This is Not Your Final Girl on a mic.
If we sound more annoying or less annoying,
yeah, let us know in the comments below. Are we more or less annoying? I'm Candace. I'm here with Gabby and Ariel. You wanna introduce yourselves? That one's Gabby.
me. She's pointing at me. I'm Gabby.
I'm pointing. You can't see. This
I'm
one.
Ariel.
Yeah,
Hey!
We're here today to talk about folk horror, which is a genre that we literally picked because we wanted to do Nicolas Cage in Wicker Man impressions.
Yes.
But we found so much more from the genre, from the subgenre.
So much more depression.
It actually was way less fun than watching Wicker Man.
It hurt me.
This was like a couple months ago that we got together and watched both the Wicker Mans.
The Wicker Man.
Wicker Man.
As we like to say.
The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man. The one with Christopher Lee.
The real one.
And then the one.
The one we deserve, but not the one we need right now. Yes. Yeah, that was a couple months ago, and that was all that I thought I knew of folk horror.
Yeah,
honestly.
It was. And you know what? I had wanted to watch The Wicker Man because I'd never seen it before, and I wanted to see Midsommar, and I was like, well, I need to get more into this genre before I see Midsommar. I don't want to go in being a fool. I want to see the movie that everybody's thinking of when they watch this movie.
Yeah.
We went and saw it, like, real quick. I remember it was out, and we're like, oh, let's go.
Right, because of Hereditary, because we both liked Hereditary.
Yeah.
So we kind of jumped on the next Ari Aster one. We watched it afterwards, but I felt like I picked up a lot. Like, even just my memory of Midsommar kind of changed after I watched Wicker Man.
Had either of you seen the Nick Cage version before we watched it together?
No.
I don't think so. I think I'd just seen, like, YouTube videos of
Terrible
just
all the clips
from it. Yeah.
I had seen it when I was a kid, so my only knowledge of the Wicker Man was from Nick Cage.
And did you go see it thinking this will be a good movie?
No!
Oh, okay.
We were in LA, and I was thrilled because I got to see an R-rated horror film. I knew it was terrible. Like, I went into it, and I knew it was terrible, and I still laughed, and he goes, my leg!
Oh God, my leg!
Oh God!
Not the bees!
I don't believe in your God. Oh my gosh.
But I had seen that one before, but I had not seen the original with Christopher Lee.
So before we get too into it, I looked up what folk horror is. So they kind of categorized it as that it references European pagan traditions, and there are rituals, nature, deities, or like deities based in nature. For people that don't know what folk horror is, It's basically just a take on religious horror. So like possession movies, and then there's folk horror, because those are traditions that we don't understand.
It's like pre-Christian.
Yeah.
Pre-Christian
Horror.
terror.
Mhm.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So they're scary, because we don't understand why they did certain things, so.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I feel like watching some of the movies that we watched, I was like there's not many common threads between some of these, like, in terms of...
Like plot devices, or...
Right.
Yeah.
There's, like, a few different stock plots, I guess, but, like, you kind of don't know what you're getting, necessarily.
Yeah. They were, I mean, most of what I saw was a bummer. Most of what I saw was definitely a fucking bummer.
I saw at least one of the more fucked up movies that I've ever seen, I think. The Hagazussa was extremely fucked up.
Yeah, I didn't get that one. I didn't get to see that one, but you mentioned something upsetting.
Yeah. There's definitely several extremely upsetting things that happened in it. That's the one that I wouldn't watch again. I was just saying.
Is that a common thread? I feel like...
That you wouldn't watch it again?
That I wouldn't watch it again.
Interesting.
You know what? But it's not true for me with all of them. I would watch
Right.
Midsommar again.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I would watch
The Wicker Man again.
I would watch The Wicker Man again. Either of them.
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Nick Cage.
Obviously.
I wouldn't be super pumped about watching Midsommar. I know, like, our friends are watching it tonight for the first time.
Yeah, our friends are
But-
watching Midsommar
Right.
as we speak.
Yeah.
Unprotected, without us.
without
so
us.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
to
the
them.
other, all our marshmallow friends are watching.
Marshmallow Squad.
Oh no, we told them when to cover their eyes.
I wouldn't be pumped about watching it, but I just wanted to be there to witness our friends watching it. But I wasn't excited about watching it again because of how it made me feel, I think. And I was reading an article, I think it was on Bloody Disgusting, that a way to describe all folk horror is sensual and earthy, which I thought was like a really weird combination, but it's pretty fitting.
Yeah.
They also said something about how that they have very like aesthetic ways of showing landscapes.
Yeah, that's a
in
big deal.
Folk horror, which I thought was really cool.
Well, and that's where like I was doing, because I did a lot of that research before I started watching. Then I watched several, and they have that what they call the unholy trinity.
Right.
That Mark Gaddis, I think he's the one that developed that trinity or coined it as an unholy trinity. It was Witchfinder General, Blood on Satan's Claw, and of course Wicker Man.
Right.
And those three actually do have a similar aesthetic, and they do feel landscape for sure, pre-Christian terror, religious, blah blah blah. But then I saw a list that had a lot of films on it that felt not at all like those three, and not at all like that vibe. Because Midsommar fits with that vibe too.
Oh yeah.
Definitely the landscape, and then a lot with the isolation. So I think isolation is a consistent one, even across some things that don't seem to be folk horror, or maybe I just disagree with it. I mean, I saw stuff like American Werewolf in London was on a list I saw.
That's such a weird one to me.
That's a very strange one.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if I agree with thumbs down on that.
I think it has a flavor of it when they're out in the isolated area. So I think there's like a little teaspoon of it maybe in there. But I wouldn't call it folk horror. And then I saw Evil Dead on the list too. But see, that's a hard one because it kind of does on paper fit.
Yeah, and that one is like definitely cross genres. Like it I mean, I would call Evil Dead a horror comedy over pretty much anything.
Yes.
At least Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead, the first one, is like a little bit closer to maybe like a possession movie or something.
Yeah, because they play it more straight. But then even we were talking about earlier the folk horror where you're talking about these, what did you call them, nature deities, or where so then you have things, if they're European and it's some sort of deity, then you're looking at things also that deal with Krampus.
Right.
Or so you have the film Krampus, you have Sint, you have Rare Exports, you have all of those other ones, and those kind of feel like their own thing. Like, I guess I would call that Christmas horror more, but then it does have the
like
folk
holiday horror.
But it does have the folk horror elements to it.
Right.
But then I started going down a rabbit hole because I was like, is Trick or Treat folk horror?
Right.
I'm like, fuck, please stop.
Like, where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. I think that's part of the thing with folk horror, though. I think that it's less strict of a line.
Yeah, and I think that there's probably some that are like true folk horror movies, and there's some that just have elements of it.
Right.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because like I wouldn't agree with some of the ones you were talking about as folk horror at all. I think it's more like
Subjective?
no, I don't think it's subjective. I think it's smaller than they're making it seem. I think the genre is smaller than that. Because, I don't know, I feel like there aren't a lot of folk horror movies, so they kind of stand out when you see them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Which is why when Midsommar came out, everybody was like, The Wicker Man.
Yeah, they're like, what is that?
Mhm.
There's only a couple of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the definition that I saw said based on like European pagan rituals too, so I don't know if that kind of condenses it down a
I
little
kind of
bit.
agree
does,
with it
but
that
that
has to be the
feels-
source.
I feel like then they're limiting it. That's like people that say the canon is full of white authors. I don't know. I don't
guess
buy
you're
into
right
that.
to say it's weird to make it
I don't think it has to
specifically
be
Eurocentric.
European. I think a lot of films, a lot of media that we consume is going to deal with stuff that's European if it's old.
Right.
But I think you could do folk horror that is in an African setting. I would love that shit.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's some, I'm sure, we could talk about, some that I think we could say are American, like The Witch.
The
which
Witch
came out a few
is.
years
I think
ago.
The Witch is solidly a folk horror
I
movie.
think so too. That's true. I hadn't thought, and that's the one that I watched.
I think it just has to do with like the juxtaposition of like something old that people don't believe in anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of intruding
Okay.
on like
modern life.
yeah, the
Or-
modern or like however kind of modern you're thinking of
Right.
life.
Something disrupting, but and I guess disrupting in a specific way, because it couldn't be any haunted house film. You're right. It would have to be. I mean, you couldn't call like The Grudge folk horror? Question mark.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't think.
Because there's no like I don't know. I haven't seen The Grudge recently.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
There's a new one.
I
Did you
know.
that?
Yeah, there's a new one.
I'm not gonna watch that shit, but I know
Oh,
about
I'm gonna
it.
watch it.
I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch
I'm
it.
gonna watch it.
Also, speaking of new, because that one came out this month, The Turning got terrible reviews. The one that I was saying I was excited for last time. So, R.I.P.
Yeah.
He's true.
But no, you're right. I don't think The Grudge, but I think I just go down the rabbit hole because it just feels like it bleeds into a lot of other things.
It's definitely kind of a slippery subgenre. Like you could apply it to a lot of stuff. We were talking about Blair Witch, like the Blair Witch Project,
Yeah.
which I just watched last night. And while, yeah, I think that you could probably make an argument for it, I don't think it quite fits.
I think it fits, but I think we were talking about how, I mean, for me, that's found footage, and that's what matters most about that film. Like, that's the head genre, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say that it still fits into folk horror, but for me, it's more important in the genre of found footage.
Right.
I think it does both well,
Yeah.
like equally well. But I do understand your argument that it's more important for found footage than for folk horror.
It's interesting to see it, I guess, in the folk horror subcategory, because I was mentioning to Candace that I saw Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is an Australian horror film, and it's about a girls' school where they go have a picnic at Hanging Rock, and a couple girls don't come back, and no one knows what the fuck happened to them. And it starts out with a black screen with text on it that says, in 1900 something, this girls' school went out. Basically, they made it seem like it really happened.
Right.
So Blair Witch owes a lot to Picnic at Hanging Rock, not in a bad way,
Right.
but it's very much taking from that tradition. So, you think of Blair Witch as totally kind of kickstarting found footage genre. There's lots of found footage before that.
Oh yeah, there's
And-
just always that one movie that kind of stands out and makes the genre a little bit more mainstream, I think.
But like Picnic at Hanging Rock, so it does that a little, but it's not found footage. I mean, it's strongly folk horror.
Right.
And a lot of weird shit where you don't know what's going on, which is that feels like a vibe of folk horror
Weird
to
where
me.
you don't know what's going on. Where it kind of like puts you like in a fish out of water position where you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? Where am I right now in this movie?
Yeah. Which as much as I didn't like in Midsommar and it made me laugh at it, it does that. It does make you feel like, what the fuck? And so it does that well.
Yeah. No, that's what I love about it. Like,
Yeah.
It like puts you in that position, and it makes you kind of want to laugh uncomfortably, which is like kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
think
the
that.
fuck am I looking at? That guy's got period blood in his juice.
Yeah, it's definitely that. It's definitely like uncomfortable laughing.
Well, and we did that with Wicker Man too.
Yeah.
Where they're like fucking on the lawn, and we're like, oh my god.
Yeah,
What?
Wicker Man definitely does that.
It does. So there are those what the fuck where you're collectively as an audience participating in something where you don't know if you're allowed to be there.
Yeah.
Which is neat.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think Midsommar felt like a special kind of uncomfortable, it's a really tough like emotion to invoke. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
What other ones did you guys watch? Folk horror wise.
I watched Witchfinder General.
Oh yeah.
And I watched Hagazussa, which I referred to, which Witchfinder General is from what, like the 60s.
68 or something.
1968, I want to say. And Hagazussa is from 2019. So like kind of a weird juxtaposition there. Got like one of the classics and the very new one.
Mm-hmm.
And Witchfinder General is, which you watched that one too.
Yes.
I'd had a very different impression of it, like for the bulk of the movie. Than like the end is kind of like, I don't know, the end brings it in a different direction for me. But yeah, this is definitely like 60s horror, kind of hokey. Like the blood is literally just bright red paint.
Is it like
So
in
good.
Suspiria where it's just like kind of like day glowy, or is
Yes.
it? Okay.
It's like it's
but like
almost
not
like
as beautiful as Suspiria.
yeah,
like,
definitely. It's
sad.
definitely not
Less artistic.
attractive.
Like off-brand Crayola, you
Yeah.
know?
Great value Suspiria.
Yeah.
And it has Vincent Price, and you know, I feel like that one's interesting because a lot of the source of the horror in a lot of folk horror movies is, you know, the people who are practicing witchcraft or, you know, whatever, communicating with old, whatever, like esoteric gods or something. But in Witchfinder General, the horror comes from a modern person working on like the church's behalf, who is like abusing his power.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's nothing supernatural in it.
Yeah, which is why it kind of like only people accused of witchcraft, which sort of which to me made it like kind of weirdly progressive. That they're like, you know, it's not that you have to like defeat the evil. It's like the evil is with the church and the government.
And see, that's where, because you had told me that it was progressive, so I was going into it with a mindset of
Yeah.
something totally different. Where I was like, okay, progressive, cool. So when, I mean, we could talk about it, right? It's from 1968.
I think
so
we can
people haven't
probably
seen
talk about it.
It's okay.
If you want to watch Witchfinder General, actually, you should probably be warned.
Yes, that's another thing.
It's pretty rapey.
Yeah, so it can be, that's the thing I was going to bring up, is so the rape happens, and then, you know, rape revenge is a subgenre of horror in and of itself, so I thought, okay, well, are they going to do a mashup? Like, is this going to be a rape revenge? Like, is she going to really be a witch? Is she going to fuck some people up? I'm not very into that because this happened, but is there going to be some weird sort of justice? And there wasn't, you know, and she didn't do any of it.
Right.
So I was just mad and sad the whole film.
Yeah. It's definitely not progressive in that context.
Yeah.
It's mostly just that he's supposed to be, it's mostly just that, like, it establishes very quickly it's not witches, the witches are not like the evil in the movie. The evil is the establishment. Which
like the Crucible kind of, where they're like, well, these women like aren't doing shit. It's
Yes,
just this man.
definitely Crucible vibes. And Vincent Price is Vincent Price.
Is Crucible folk horror? Shit.
Is the Crucible folk horror?
Oh
God.
It doesn't stop.
No. You'll all be guilty.
Oh God.
I remember one time I wanted to watch the Crucible, and I like said it out loud, and everyone like moaned and groaned, and I don't know why. I was like, does nobody want to watch this movie?
They're like, no.
Yeah, they're like, ugh.
Watch a bunch of fucking pilgrims.
Maybe it is. Like, it is a bummer. So that it meets a serious criteria of folk horror.
Yeah, holy shit.
It is a huge fucking bummer.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, I think there's a compelling case to be made.
I just, personally, I haven't watched Witchfinder General, but I feel like there has to be a little bit of supernatural going on for me to consider it a folk horror.
You know what? I want to say, of most of the movies that I watched, there wasn't actually anything concretely supernatural.
Right.
Like, I mean...
Except, like, a belief in... Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like in Midsommar, like, there wasn't.
Right.
In the Wicker Man, there wasn't. I mean, there are
people
people believing in it
Mm-hmm.
and acting on that.
I'm trying to think if Blood on Satan's Claw... No, Blood on Satan's Claw was straight up. No, it was supernatural.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because there's weird fur patches that are like Satan's skin. It's a weird
Damn.
movie.
I wish I had watched this.
It's a weird movie. I'm trying to think of other ones where... I mean, I guess, yeah, because maybe that's part of it, is some of these films have either a lack of it or maybe just a suggestion of it. I don't know, though.
Yeah.
Because then I think about, it's interesting how you brought up that film, Witchfinder General, was about the people and how the evil was in the church. And then I think about, for some reason, the juxtaposition came to my head of The Witch, where the evil wasn't in the church, but it was more about, like, such a, like, modern concept of, like, celebrating, like, evil as something that actually isn't necessarily evil. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
At the end, when she flies up in the air and you're kind of rooting for it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just a totally different vibe.
And that's something that you don't often get in folk horror, is somebody just, like, leaning completely into it.
No.
I feel like.
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you it's fish out of water for most of them.
Yeah. So we talked about the Wicker Man a little bit.
Yeah.
And we talked about Witchfinder General. I don't think either me or Gabby has seen The Blood on Satan's Claw.
No. I didn't
Yeah.
watch it.
But you did.
Yeah, and that one has some rape in it, and it's a bummer. So if it's the
Yeah.
category,
Is it a bummer?
it has, it does, I mean, I guess pre-Christian terror. I mean, it's basically, it's one of those films where, another subgenre of it would be one of those films where all the kids become fucking evil.
Children of the Corn.
Which is also folk
folk
Yeah.
horror.
Yes, totally. So they start, I don't know, everyone, another thing of folk horror is it feels kind of just like a trip. It just feels like a drug trip a little bit.
There's a heavy presence of psychedelics.
Yes.
Like actually.
There is.
People-
They take
people
drugs in them a lot.
Be
Yeah.
doing some shrooms.
Yeah.
And this one, no one does that, but there's one girl who, is sexy. I'm a sexy girl, and I'm a Satan lady, Sexy Satan lady. So she's in it, and she's instigating shit, and she tries to, like, come on to the preacher, and she's like, look at me, I'm naked under this robe. But he's too pure. Anyways, it is wild, and there is a scene where another girl who isn't like that definitely gets raped, and it's instigated by the Satan lady, and everyone's watching, which is another weird thing about folk horror. Everyone loves to watch. They love to get in on...
Voyeuristic.
Oh, it's voyeuristic, yeah. So that happens, which, didn't like... Really hard for me to get behind rape as a trope or metaphor in anything.
I feel the same way often. I just don't want to see it. I just don't want it in my media for the most part. But I weirdly in the folk horror movies I've watched, I haven't been incredibly bothered by it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe just because this is already what the genre is. It's just all, like, horrible and, like, gross, and I don't think I've ever saw it being, like, super sexualized. Like.
But it's sensual and earthy.
Well, yeah.
No, I'm making
like
fun
you're
of that.
fucking
But sensual can
It's
also
I'm
be...
totally making fun of that shit.
Sensual is also, like, not in a good way.
Yeah, I think it's like a dirty, earthy kind of sensual where you're
Dirty.
like, ugh.
It's never... Yeah, that's true. It's not hot, right? But I
Yeah.
guess it's not.
No one's horny. No one
No
is
one is
horny.
horny except Buck, who tried to hump.
Yeah, no, my cat is horny, but he doesn't understand. So we're
He
gonna leave
doesn't
him out of
know.
it.
Oh, you're like, never talk to me.
Leave my son alone! He didn't understand it!
Doesn't know.
You're an enabler.
It's okay, Buck. I'll just enroll you in a new school.
This accusation will ruin his life.
Yeah,
Gabby.
I can't believe you'd say that about my son on a podcast.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know what to do with rape as a trope in this. I really don't.
I've been frequently wishing it wasn't in it, because I usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm never like, oh yay. It's like, oh, as long I feel like there are movies that make it feel really, I don't know. I mean, there's no good way to portray rape, obviously, but oh my god, I don't know. I don't even want to finish that sentence. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird topic to get into because I do feel like it's something that I don't want to be a person that says like it's not okay to portray it or discuss it in any way in media because I mean
It happens.
It's the thing that happens, right? And
yeah,
it's and I think it's strange to say that some part of like human experience just doesn't get discussed in media. But also, I usually just don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it.
No.
I just don't like it'll. It's something that I'll probably skip it usually if it includes that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone, is talking a lot about cancel culture and stuff with comedians, but I think the same rule applies for most media where, people aren't necessarily saying you can't talk about certain subjects. They're just saying, look at how you talk about it and look at what your framework gives power to when you're talking about it.
Right.
So when you're using rape as a plot device, and when that plot device is not doing anything that feels, it's hard to explain, but if you're using that as a plot device for, I don't know, a man's plot, or even if you're just using it to be like, this is fucked up and weird, like I don't think you're being responsible with that issue.
Yeah, I guess
my
that's
thing.
true, but a lot of horror is kind of there to be fucked up and weird.
Yeah.
So I guess I could give it a little bit more of a pass. I probably talk about this a lot now at this point, that I give horror more of a pass for being fucked up, in ways that I don't give other stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or with other media, I'm like, oh, cheap drama points, don't like it. With horror, I'm like, well, I mean, I came here to get fucked up, so I don't know what I'm complaining about. I definitely think like there's some things that bother me and there's some that don't, or at least do it less in ways that I'm okay with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah, that's a difficult gray area for sure.
But folk horror has a lot of really fucked up stuff in it. I watched Hagazussa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so if somebody does know. Apparently it's High German, meaning something like a witch.
Okay.
So it's kind of like The Witch, but German and more fucked up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I kind of said it's like if a black metal album was a movie. It's like very atmospheric, and like it's way less focused on, sort of moving things along, than it is like just being, the aesthetic. Like they kind of, it holds shots for a really long time. And of course they're all gorgeous. Like you're just looking at this like crazy like scenery, basically, all the aesthetics, that kind of go along with folk horror. And yeah, it's just like, it just grows progressively more like horrible as the movie goes on. Like there's just, there's just a lot of stuff that like you kind of wish you hadn't seen. And there is rape in it, and that's like kind of not the worst thing that's in the movie.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That was something that happened with Midsommar too, where at first you're like, oh cool, they're gonna go do this, and I'm sure it's gonna be fucked up because it's a fucking horror movie, but it does get kind of incrementally worse, just slowly. And I think that's kind of where the uncomfortable laughter comes in, where you're like, that's okay, right? That's okay, right? And it just kind of gets until you're like, whoa, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like all at once. But not all at once because it was giving hints.
Yeah, like it does
all
something
along.
and you're like, oh, I guess maybe we can recover from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's rape in that one too.
Yeah.
So it fits with that trope
Yeah.
as well. But it is true, yeah, you don't, it's like they're turning up the temperature really slowly. You don't know it's getting fucked until...
Mm-hmm.
That one's also really funny to me because it's a hilarious concept of, Americans going somewhere else and they're like, I guess you would call them, or they'd call themselves, woke Americans. And they're wanting to be culturally sensitive, where they're like, oh...
They're like, oh, this is their culture.
This is what they do, but you're not, they're fucked up. They're just fucked up. So I love
It's
that
okay
joke.
to leave, guys.
I love that joke on woke Americans. It's funny.
Yeah, it's true. That they're like too polite to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I fucking like Midsommar. I don't know.
So I wanted to ask you guys if you thought, because the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yes. Poltergeist folk horror.
Is Poltergeist
No.
a folk horror?
Okay, think about it. The more you think about it.
No, I don't
Because
want
this is
to.
we were talking about this the other day. We made ourselves shut up because we were like walking out. We were walking out of work and we were just kind of casually discussing it. And Ariel was saying, said this kind of cool thing about it's not like the house that's haunted, it's the land that's haunted.
Yeah,
Which
like
I thought
that's how I learned. Like for me, that's how I define folk horror. So when I was doing all my research, I was like, okay, the house isn't haunted with folk horror; it's the land, and sometimes the people. Right, the people are just fucked up.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, the people are
thing, too.
incredibly fucked up.
Sometimes it's not the land or the house; it's the people. But so then I was thinking, we were thinking about Poltergeist because obviously the land is the big thing. It's built on.
Yeah.
But then also, as far as it's like American folk horror, where it's new and the isolation of suburbia.
Right.
Yeah, I really think it
Fuck.
could be.
Fuck.
And it's weird in a
Why
way.
did you keep talking?
It's weird in a way that no other haunted house story is weird. I remember when I first saw this movie, it really wasn't that long ago. I think because I wasn't allowed to watch them growing up, I watched it maybe 6 or 7 years ago, not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it for the first time and feeling so like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about, where you're sitting there and you think you know what it is because you're in a house. It's gonna be a haunted house movie, classic. I know all these films. And then weird shit like the toy, the fucking tree. What the hell? Like the nature element where you just don't know what's happening.
The tree. It's got nature.
Yeah, it has.
I think it could be like kind of a weird like inverse.
It's definitely a film that defies genre to some extent. I mean, as far as horror, it's definitely horror, but as far as subgenre, it is a hard to categorize film.
I think for me, I would like a folk horror movie to fixate a little bit more on the culture. So since it's on an Indian burial ground, I would like it to kind of go in depth on that a little bit more.
Like there's some
like the rituals that they have,
Right.
or like why the house is haunted. I don't know. I just kind of.
I mean, they get into in the second film. I mean, if you've seen Poltergeist 2,
I haven't.
okay, well, one of the main characters is, so in the first one you have the psychic, the woman who's the psychic, and she's in it in the second one, not a lot, but she is in it. But then there's a Native American man who is kind of a shaman, or and he helps the family in the second film, and he actually does, like, he shares his culture with them. And the second Poltergeist 2, I just saw it. Was it last night? I recently saw it.
Okay.
This film is not good.
Right.
I'm not making the argument, but I'm just saying, like, they do actually get into the culture more in the second film. And there's a very creepy preacher man in the second film.
Oh, they kind of leaned into that, like
The religion thing. But I don't know, because Poltergeist 1, it's not heavy on the religion.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I understand your guys' argument, but I wouldn't put it in my folk horror box.
I think it's only folk horror if you're being annoying. Probably.
Yeah,
Which we totally are.
Probably.
Which I'm just down for it.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Poltergeist is a folk horror movie.
Fuck
Changed
you.
my mind.
Changed my mind.
This is a conversation you have in the Santrini smoking room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But is Poltergeist folk horror though? Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
About it.
Just think about it. Yeah, anytime anybody tries to make an argument.
The isolation of American suburbia.
Think about it!
Ariel.
This is my true calling.
This is.
I like thinking about it that way. I know that it can't really be because it's
Not.
But it is!
It can't
Think
be.
about it!
It can't be because it's not.
Think about
But
it.
plus, for me, like, folk horror, I feel like is less of, like, a box. I don't have a box for folk horror. It's like a Febreze spray.
No, I think it's slippery.
You know, where it's like,
It
oh,
comes
damn,
slithering
someone
out of
sprayed
the box.
pretty heavy in this room. This one's fucking folk horror. But the other one's like, there's a whiff of it. There's a whiff in the air. Someone sprayed it a couple hours ago.
I guess it is like
I
a
love that
mood.
metaphor.
That's how I feel about folk horror.
I don't think it's so much a mood as kind of like getting, like going back to like the scenery, right? So like the way that they're shooting it, like European pagan stuff, and I know that we talked about that it can be other cultures too, but I don't know.
It's nebulous, man.
Yeah,
It's nebulous.
I know, but like, isn't everything?
Yeah.
No. Have you ever read any folk horror? Like M.R. James? You guys read any
No.
of that stuff?
No, I haven't. But I want to now. Kind of.
No, I feel like it would fuck me up.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucked up.
Yeah, it is fucked up.
I feel like in a way though, it's like kind of for me at least that kind of thing is like a little bit like cleansing because I like am anxious about like
Stuff like that.
dark things, right? Like dark gritty things, like what's like between me and my comfortable life and like just the shitty world out there, right?
Right.
And so watching that kind of stuff is like, okay, I'm getting it out. Like I'm just watching this right now. I'm like watching people go through some really extremely heinous situations. And I don't know, in a weird way that's kind of not nice. I feel like I was talking about watching Hagazussa, and I was like, I don't want to say I enjoyed it. I don't know if I enjoyed that experience, but it was also something that like when I got done with it, I didn't feel like, oh, I hate life now. I felt like marginally better about my life. I don't know.
You're like, well, at least it's not that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, cool. I'm gonna go to bed now. Like,
Yeah.
they're not scary. I'm not scared by any of them. Definitely not.
No, definitely not. Well, the M.R. James stuff, because they talk about him a lot with like British folk horror, and he's not fucked up like the folk horror movie genre is fucked up, but it's all very haunting, right? It's just kind of a haunting, leaving you feeling kind of like, okay, this is like, it's very British, it's very like ghosty, but it's good. I mean, they're short stories, so it's easy to like pick up if you guys are curious. But there's also, I think it was it BBC? They did a whole series on M.R. James where they actually made short films.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was just like a TV show. But whatever. So they did a lot of his stuff too and put it on TV.
Oh, I want to see that.
So that was another popular thing in, I think it was the 70s, where that was a big part of the folk horror genre too.
I kind of like, as you guys were talking, I was thinking folk horror is kind of like the dangers of like hive mind. So like religion,
Yeah.
or I mean mostly religion, you know, but like kind of like hive mind, like when people are like
Yes.
following something.
Yeah,
kind
a lot of the
blindly.
time it is like ideology is kind of poison.
Mm-hmm. And just to see like how fucked up it can get, or how much people will do
Yeah.
in the name of that.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Like the bees and
The bees!
Yeah, they
The
put
Wicker
bees
Man.
on Nicolas Cage's head.
yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor man.
Also, like animals make a big appearance too.
That's true.
I mean, like I'm sure that has to do with like the nature and things like that, like the deities and nature being a deity. You know,
Black Phillip.
Black Phillip, the animals in Midsommar, like the bear suit,
Mm-hmm.
and then Wicker Man. There's like a bunch of animals in the Wicker Man, like as they're burning it too. And I was like, no, not the cow.
Yeah.
Not the
It's
cow.
terrible.
So I think that's another thing.
Yeah, they have like animal masks in The Wicker Man, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
they're like wearing when they.
Yes.
When they were like marching down to the Wicker
Yes.
Man.
Yeah.
I love the masks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the costumes in the Wicker Man are so creepy.
Mm-hmm. Autopsy of Jane Doe. Is it folk horror?
Oh my god.
Oh no, Gabby!
No.
Gabby, no.
Drugs.
Autopsy of Jane Doe. Is it folk horror?
No.
We said it was too scary.
I said it was too scary.
Okay. Okay. But it did feel very disruptive of like modern times.
It is true. They
With
bring in a
the
piece
pig.
of like the old world and it
And it's a
fucks their
witch.
shit
It's
up.
old timey radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was
That song.
yeah.
Like, oh, and the sunshine.
It's beautiful.
Please no.
I love it.
If I ever hear that song, ever,
If it ever comes
anywhere,
up,
under any circumstance, I'm just gonna fucking shit
gonna go
myself.
bananas.
Yeah.
In a way, folk horror like heavily like uses psychedelics as like a, you know, as like a plot thing.
Yes.
Lots of people be eating mushrooms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever, like we said, A Field in England, that's like all it is,
That's
right?
the whole plot.
The whole plot
England
is
on
they
shrooms.
They
trip.
just desert a war, and then they trip, and some weird shit happens. I hated it. I hated that
It
one.
honestly sounds fucking awesome to me. I don't know if it like follows through on that plot.
Well, okay, watch it and let me know what you think. And I checked out, I wanted to know the director's deal, like what else he was doing. And he directed In Fabric, that one that I'm really excited
Yeah.
for that came out last year.
yes.
I'm still really excited for it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a totally different vibe. It actually made me really impressed with him because I didn't like A Field in England, but aesthetically, I kind of get it, like if that's your type of film.
Yeah.
And so to see that he could kind of do the flip from a film like that to a film like In Fabric,
Yeah.
I was even more excited for it.
Well, yeah, and there's drugs, there's mushrooms in Midsommar. In fact, like a lot of what happens probably in the last half of the movie, you kind of have to think like might be like they're acting the way, like they're seeing they're seeing things the way that they see things and they're acting the way they are, maybe because they're getting just like kind of dosed
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah, right.
And in Hagazussa, at one point, like a lot of like after a lot of fucked up shit happens, the main character like goes and sits in the woods and eats a mushroom, and then the rest of the movie is a trip, literally.
Okay.
And I can't think of any others that use it, but I think it's a pretty heavy trope in that subgenre.
Because that's the feeling that they're trying to evoke.
Yeah, and it is like, I mean, so I've heard what psychedelics are like. It's kind of like you know, if things are really good for a while, you kind of chilling, and everything's really beautiful. After a while, you get in a very fucked up headspace and start thinking about all the bad, horrible things that happen in the world, and the darkness is kind of closing in, and then you kind of break through it, and it's like kind of good again, or at least it ends. And I feel like it, like the genre weirdly like kind of follows that pattern.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think too, for me, I was thinking about this too while we were watching movies for this and like researching the genre. But you said something like 5 minutes ago that I can't remember now, but I really liked about like what folk horror was about.
Like the power of a hive
Thank
mind.
you. Yes.
Mhm.
So I wasn't thinking about that specifically, but I was thinking about, you know, growing up, religious background, not really allowed to watch horror, but it's interesting because, yeah, religion plays a big part in folk horror. To see, they talk about pre-Christian terror, something ancient, but it almost feels like they use that as the safety, like it always is couched in religion though. It is couched in some sort of Christian thing, and then there's something about it that isn't Christian or that's wrong and perverted, right? But it still feels like a very much like a commentary on anything organized like that and how dark it can be. And they make it seem like a deviation, but sometimes it's just that organized element that can be really, really nefarious. Because, I mean, I think it's subtly there even when, like, I think you can read into it like that, you know? That the hive mind is not just some ancient evil, it's just sometimes the religion itself.
Yeah, I think that's more often the case than it being an ancient evil that's responsible for whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I
Mhm.
mean...
Yeah, because it's not the Wicker Man deity that's burning Nicolas Cage. It's the people that believe in it.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all guilty!
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how, and that actually helps me realize, like, why some of, like, a couple that I've seen where, this one that I saw recently called The Wind, which is a newer film.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about
Yeah,
that.
and so that I think fits folk horror. It's like American folk horror, but the end kind of makes it explicit that, like, there is this, you see the supernatural thing, and I didn't feel like that move didn't work for me, and I think it's because it felt like strictly that folk horror thing where it's the people and the way the people interact and the idea of this belief.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of Christianity in it, but there's also some Native American stuff going on. But then when it's made concrete, it ruined it. It took away from it a lot. I think that nebulousness, and when it's just the people, I mean, which is another, like, why Blair Witch is so cool.
Yeah.
And why, if you, like, later ones inevitably ruin it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not really about the Blair Witch.
Right. It's about the
journey. It's
teeth
about the
that
friends we
we
made
lost along the way.
That's it. That's the episode.
Oh,
That's
God.
it.
That's it.
We can't.
We did it.
Oh, God!
We can't top that. Oh God, my friends.
Ah, fuck. Alright, well, okay, then let's wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks for listening to this episode about a bummer subgenre, but super bummer. But if you like fucked up stuff, if you like beautiful aesthetics, some rolling countrysides and some creepy forests and maybe a bog or two.
Nicolas Cage.
If you like Nicolas Cage, who is like the guy from the original Wicker Man, except that he's not a virgin, he fucks.
Yeah, he fucks.
Except it's the Wicker Man, except the guy fucks.
Yes.
And if you like psychedelics, then you might like folk horror.
Yeah, give it a shot. Give it a try.
Maybe watch it if you don't mind that there's probably at least one rape scene in the movie.
If you're like an emo horror fan.
If you're an
it's
emo
a good
horror
subgenre
fan, which
for
I
you.
super am, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty down.
That's perfect.
Tag yourself.
Just tag yourself. Yeah, so
I would personally start with Midsommar actually and watch something modern and then go back so you can kind of see how it fits into the modern, because I enjoyed that because I hadn't watched any folk horror before, or at least I didn't know that it was, but now watching Midsommar and knowing about the genre, I can kind of appreciate the movies that are folk horror a little bit more.
yeah, I think that probably makes sense. Well, yeah, we're Not Your Final Girl. Follow us on stuff. We're NYFG Pod on pretty much everything, Instagram, Twitter. On Facebook, we are Not Your Final Girl. On anything else? Are we on other stuff?
As far as the streaming, we're on most streaming platforms. Just Not Your Final Girl. We're usually the only thing that comes up, so.
Yeah, you found us somewhere if you're listening, so
Yeah.
congrats.
Yeah, and people in Canada and the Netherlands.
Yeah,
thanks.
shout out, thanks. What's up?
Yeah.
I hope Texas is still out there.
Yeah, if you have anything that you want to tell us, you can email us.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
I forgot to shout out the email before, but Gabby can probably say it because I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's nyfgpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, so tell us tell us what you think about folk horror and stuff, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more someday.
Tell us what you want us to talk about.
Tell us what you want us to talk
If
about.
you're a woman and you want to talk with us on this.
Oh yeah,
Send us your folk horror stories.
yes.
Oh.
Tell us like what just tell us what kind of horror movies you
Just
like.
email
Just talk
us.
to
Talk
us.
to us, please.
We're so lonely.
We talk to you the whole time. The
Yes.
least you can do is talk to us a little bit.
For real.
Just kidding, we love you. It's not an episode if we don't yell at you for one second.
It's true.
Fuck you.
Hey, you! Fuck you. But thank you.
Thanks also.
Do we need to thank anybody?
Yeah, we probably do need to thank Claire Holland, as always, for Our Namesake, Not Your Final Girl. And you check out her book of poetry by the same name. And we need to thank Gabby Steiger for our beautiful artwork. And we need to thank Pat Spurlock for making our cool Facebook banner and generally for being a support and solid dude forever.
Yeah.
Forever. The person in the intro, outro, and interludes is Ariel Dyer.
Dun, dun, dun.
And her Bandcamp is ariel.bandcamp.com.
Perfect, Gabby.
What's
thank
your
you.
Instagram? Can they follow you there?
Oh yeah, oops. It is Ariel Dyer Wolf.
Nice.
DYER. Get it? Because like dire wolves, if you know about that, because you're like a history nerd. Blah, 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 blah.
The end.
Hooray!
Thank
Goodbye!
you. Bye.
You know who I am, and you're gonna let me in. I know that I'm under. There's no need to wonder. You know that I'm under your skin.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my